Hey guys, this is John at JeepsterMan. Today I'm going to cover the disc brake conversion on the two-wheel drive Jeepster. This is also for the two-wheel drive station wagon with the Planar suspension. I'm just going to cover this in stages. First, we're going to do the removal. On this, you end up removing this nut here, this cotter pin. You're going to take this washer off as well. We're going to remove this whole hub and drum from this assembly. Once we get that off, we're going to remove all the hardware, the backing plate, and all of that. And then when we're back, I'm going to go back over the parts that come in our kit with this thing. So next thing I'm going to do here is remove all of this, and then we'll be back with you. Yeah. All right, so I'm back. So you can see I got the drum disassembled off of here in the hub for all one unit. I'm just going to go over that real quick. It was quite simple to do. So I took that outer nut off of there, the cotter pin, this washer, and that old bearing. Make sure you need to keep this washer, and you need to keep that nut and keep the cotter pin, okay? From there, there's only 4 bolts that hold this whole drum brake assembly and backing plate. I took it all off at once. All right, so there's only 4 bolts that hold that on there. So you can leave that whole backing plate and all those brakes there assembled, and just remove those 4 bolts and take that whole piece off. I got my drum off pretty easy too, and that all came off in one unit. The brake hose, you get a new brake hose in our kit, so I went ahead and removed that brake hose from here when I removed that whole assembly. Next, I'm going to talk about the reassembly, and we'll have some more video on us actually putting that back together, but I want to talk about a few pointers on this as well. So our plate here, this bracket, actually ends up going behind this. Now sometimes we get customers that complain that say the Zerk fitting is hitting this plate right in there. And what happens, this one has a stock one on it, and this one will clear. A lot of people have replaced their Zerk fitting, and the Zerk fitting is taller than the original one, and it ends up hitting right in here. So if you have that problem, just notch this or put a smaller Zerk fitting on it if you run into that problem. Another question we get asked sometimes, so people ask about shaving part of that tie rod off, that drag link off. And this is the piece we're talking about. And if you can see, this sticks out just a little bit right there. So what you're actually doing is you're just shaving this down a little bit, because that piece will hit the back of the rotor. I've had some customers say that it doesn't, but I always shave them down about 1/8 of an inch just to be safe, to make sure that is not hitting the back of the rotor. That's what we talk about in those instructions if you have that problem. The other pointer I want to talk about, this is what goes on next. This is what makes this whole kit here possible. This is specially machined in-house, and this is a spindle adapter. Do not be afraid to put this on with some force, because this thing needs to be flush up against this knuckle here when we get done. So I've had people try to hit this with like mallets. Yeah, that doesn't work. You need to hit it with a big hammer, get that thing on there, and it needs to be flush up against there. So that's where we're at for now. I'm gonna go ahead and reassemble this back together, and we'll come back and we'll go through some of those instructions as well. All right guys, we're back. I'm just gonna go over 2 things we just did here on the disc brake kit. Just getting ready to put that whole hub and rotor back on. So we just installed the spindle, and you can see whenever that thing's on all the way, just a little space on the back side here. But you're gonna feel this thing once you get it in the correct location, that it's back as far as it's gonna go. This is the tool that I used to put that on there, and I hit it with a 5-pound hammer. So don't be afraid. We had to hit that pretty hard to get that spindle adapter on there. So that's what we did there. And then, as you can see, I took a grinder and shaved probably 1/8 of an inch off of that arm right there. So you do that so that it doesn't hit the back side of the rotor. Otherwise, you'd put all this back together and realize that piece right there is hitting the back of the rotor. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint that so it doesn't rust, but I wanted to show you that that's what we did there, and that's what we did with the spindle adapter. So next, we're just gonna reassemble our bracket on here and the whole hub and rotor, and we'll be back. Thanks. Okay, so here we are. We got the bracket installed here. As you can see, like I was talking about, this bracket goes behind the knuckle there. The 2 spacers that you get in our kit, those go up in the top that you can see. And then the larger bolts are in the bottom and the smaller ones are up top. And then you can see on the back side, we've got the nuts back there on that bracket. And then, like I said, there's the spindle adapter we had to put on there. And then this is where people complain sometimes that they say their Zerk fitting hits, and just either notch that or put a smaller one. There's a Zerk fitting in here as well. You can't really see it, but if you slide the plate behind that Zerk fitting, it'll clear it if you were having that problem. So we'll be back next. We're going to be sliding the whole hub and rotor assembly on next. All right, guys, we're back here for the final stage. We're done with the kit. I'm just going to go over a couple things and what we did to reassemble this and get it all back together. So like I was saying, our rotor and hub assembly is all in one piece. So I installed the bearings and then the seal in the backside, greased the bearings before I put them in there. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then you just slide that whole hub and rotor assembly back onto the spindle. Then you're going to install your washer, and then you're going to install the axle nut and the cotter pin, and then we give you a new dust cover. So we put the new dust cover on there. This kit also comes with this spacer here. The spacer rides on the hub as well. And then I also went ahead and installed the caliper, because our kit includes the caliper and the pads. Reinstalled the new hose that it comes with. I usually leave this hose loose up here, and I'll attach it to the caliper first and then maneuver the hose around the way that I need to go, and then I'll tighten this one down. I even put a little zip tie up here through the arm, just keep that hose back there out of the way. And then when I got done, I checked that clearance I was talking about on the back side of the rotor to this arm, and as you can see, because I cleared this one, I shaved some of that off beforehand, so there's plenty of space back there, so we don't worry about it hitting. And that is pretty much it. So you just bleed your calipers from there and then put your wheel and tire back on, and you're good to go. So if you got any questions, feel free to reach out to us, 732-458-3966, or email us, sales@thejeepsterman.com. Thanks.